Now we'll save, export, and run. So we'll save the project. Not really anything to save, as you can see, because I've already done it, but so no reason to do that. Export, that's this button here. So if you click it, you want the third option. We want the export.dat files. And you see it remembered our export path from before. So I'll click select the folder. We don't have rainfall yet, uncheck that, and click OK. It's now exported these 4 files into the export folder. So if we go to the export folder, we have these 4 files. I can open them in Notepad++. And let me organize them the way that I want to see them. So that would be cont.dat first, taller, topo, and Mannings. Okay, cont.dat we've already seen. Taller.dat we've already seen. Topo.dat is x coordinate. This is the centroid. X coordinate, y coordinate, and this is the grid elevation for the grid polygon. So centroid point, and then this is the elevation for the whole grid element. Mannings.dat is Mannings_n.dat is grid element number on the left, and roughness for the grid element on the right. Now we're going to run the model so that we can test and make sure that these 4 files were written correctly. So if we come back to QGIS, click OK, we can then go, let's see, we want to check our run settings first. So click the drop down, go to run settings. This needs to go to the FLO-2D folder where your engine is, okay? So that will be C drive, program files x86, FLO-2D Pro, and then just select the folder. Your engine is in there. And then this goes to your export folder because that's where your DAT files are, but we already set that variable when we exported the project. So click OK. So be careful that that's set to the correct folder, but we don't have to change it. So we click OK, and now it says run settings saved, and we can now click the button again and click Run FLO-2D. You could have also done a quick run in that case. And this gives you the run. Now nothing's going to happen because we haven't made any rainfall data. We haven't added any inflow hydrographs, so nothing's going to happen. But it is going to show up, and it's going to show you that its path is right here, and by starting, that means that it's passed all its checks. So we can shut it down, and it's going to finish its output interval, and then it's going to write its data to the file. Now, of course, all the output data is going to be empty. So when I go back to my file, you're going to see that all these data files all these .out files are here. And again, remember, of course, if you can't see your extensions, you can always go to the View tab, and you can check or uncheck these file extensions. It's really important for FLO-2D to see those, I think. I don't like not seeing those. But these are all empty because there wasn't any water, so let's just delete them. So I'm just going to select them all, and I'll click Shift to delete, and I'll permanently delete them. We also have an error.check file. It was the file that was written when the model was doing its error checks, and it just said no fatal data input errors were encountered. Again, we can delete that too. But I did want to show you that 3 additional files were generated, and I'm going to open these in Notepad++ and go over some of the changes to some of these other files. So the cont.dat changed a little, so it says that we should reload it, and I'll click yes. So FLO-2D reorganized it a bit and gave it a build number. So if the FLOPRO engine or FLO-2D can read this data and write this, that means it passed this check and the cont.dat data file is set up correctly. Well, it may not be accurate, but at least its format is correct. The taller.dat file was also modified because you may have remembered me saying that we don't use that one variable, FLOPRO, so FLOPRO just deletes it. It's not going to use it, so it just eliminates it. you see here that this is the rest of your toler.dat file, just reorganized a bit. Nothing happened to topo.dat. Nothing happened to mannings.dat. They're the exact same files, but they were used to generate these three files. Let's order these differently. That's fplane. Let's do it like this way. cadpoints.dat is sort of like topo.dat and mannings.dat. I don't know why we don't just combine these into a single file. But cadpoints.dat sets the position of each grid element, and fplane.dat, this is your grid element number 1, and these are that grid element's 4 neighbors. And this is the end value, and this is the elevation. And this is neighbors.dat, and it is just neighbor data, but it's like binary, so you're not going to be able to read it. And I think it just caused Notepad++ to crash, so we can't even close it. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, let's close it. We don't want to, crying out loud. Okay, there we go. Okay, so something to note about CAD points and fplane. The model, the FLOPRO model, uses CAD points and fplane to define your grid. But as you saw, FLOPRO.exe built these two files. So if you run your project with GDS, GDS will build these two files. If you run with QGIS, then FLOPRO will build these two files. So if topo.dat and mannings are different, meaning that as you're working on your project, you changed your grid elevation, or you changed your mannings roughness, or you changed the size or shape of your grid, these two files, cadpoints.dat and fplane.dat, I didn't mean to close that, apologize, are still going to be used. So like the next time you export your project, you need to delete the DAT files before you export your project. And I'll show you what I mean. So you just come in here and you just hit the delete key, because the next time you export your project, it's going to replace all that data and it's going to be just fine. I just want to say one more thing about this, that you do not run your model from QGIS, okay? You do not run any of this data or access any of this data when you run or execute the simulation. The simulation only reads ASCII data. The FLOPRO engine only reads ASCII data. So it does not have anything to do with QGIS. So when you export your project, you are exporting data that was developed by QGIS, and you are exporting that data into a project folder. And when you run FLOPRO.exe, it comes to this project folder and it reads this input data and it processes it into the format that it needs, meaning it builds its arrays and it builds its tables, and then it runs it from here, not from QGIS. Okay, QGIS has nothing to do with the FLOPRO engine, it just calls it. And that's all I wanted to say about that, because people are very confused about that. Thank you. Anyway, that's the end of this one.